Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mr. Ali. Welcome to the Real Story on a beautiful Thursday evening. And it is beautiful because the last 2 days we've had the exam results for our young people who have had an arduous 18 months or so where their education and their lives have been turned upside down. But before that particular subject, as always, I like to share with you the latest COVID figures that we have for Birmingham. Unfortunately, because of the increased cases of COVID, the positive cases, we have now 3,733 compared to 3,541, an increase of 192. What does that mean in terms of overall vaccination numbers? In this country, we have now 46 million people that have had now the first dose, and a staggering 35 million people that have now had both doses. So please, if you haven't had your dose or if you haven't had your second dose, please do get that done. Today we are now celebrating, and we are now going to also delve a lot more deeper into the both A-level results and also the GCSE results. If you are a parent, if you are a student, both of an A-level or a GCSE stage, please get in touch. Let us know how the last 15 months have been for you and your family. How were your results? And also what your future aspiration and course are as well. So please get in touch. And if you are also what do you think the months have been for your children? And also, if you work within the education sphere, in the education sector, let us know about the import of these results and the fact that they didn't sit any exam, whether they have had a bearing on the, again, a record-busting results that have come out. So today I have two individuals who work very closely in the education sector. Then please get in touch at that level. So I have Clive Simpson, the Community Education Service, and also Tosif Asif, who have also been working within a college sphere as well. So a huge warm welcome to the Real Story on ZMC Network. Clive, so warm welcome to both of you. Clive, first of all, how are you? How are you feeling today after GCSE and your A-level result students were being given to them? They must be celebrating as once again record results are being announced.
My students have been very happy indeed. I've had some tremendous phone calls. But my concern, though, isn't simply with how well my students are doing, but also with students who have been less fortunate than them, because not everybody can afford to have the kind of tuition support students have had.
Yeah, most definitely. So just to sort of go into a bit more deeper, so on Tuesday, the A-level results were announced, and a record-busting 45% of pupils sitting A-levels achieved an A or above, which is just absolutely staggering. Because when I was a student, I know A-levels weren't easy. And I suppose the question is not to take anything away from students and their families supported them during this very difficult 18 months. The fact that there were no end of year exams, it was a mixture of coursework, it was a mixture of teacher assessments, and maybe some mock exams. As a result, the A-level was given to those. How realistic for the students of what they would have normally sat if there was no such thing?
Sorry, could you say that again? I didn't quite hear you.
It is more for Tosif, actually, Clive, whereby the fact that, this time around it was a mixture of, I think it's just gone. So, yeah, it was a mixture of coursework, it was a mix of teacher assessment, it was also a mixture of mock exams that determined the overall final result. How accurate? Go on, sorry.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, how do you define accurate? If you're looking at people who have been very successful, then fair enough. But I think you also have to consider in your equation or monitoring those people who have been less fortunate. So I think if you're going to come to any figures about the success, you've got to measure those people who are successful against those people who haven't. If you measure one success after another success after another success, you're not true picture. And some people argue actually that there's a gap between those people who have been very successful, let's say, for example, in GCSEs, and those students like some Romanian students and students possibly from minority ethnic backgrounds who have so well. So I think success is something that we have to see simply as a value judgment.
Yeah, great point there, actually, Clive. We will touch on that in terms of how some of the less fortunate people who may have, good access to Wi-Fi and home learning equipment, and those that aren't able to have that home tuition that some people are able to afford, and people whose English isn't a first language as well. We will touch on that. But Tosif as well, I know you're also a very passionate individual who've done a lot of mentoring to young people as well. What's your overall feeling about the performance of young people both in GCSE and also at the A level? Tosif, can you hear me? Okay, we'll come back to Tosif. So I know at this stage there is something called the clearing, whereby after the A level results have been announced, a lot of young people will now start applying through UCAS for their university, for their course, and not everyone is fortunate. Sometimes you have to go through clearing. I know last time round people were given a very last minute indication of what their results were and didn't get enough time to get their courses. But I suppose this time round that isn't the excuse. A lot of people are going to medicine. A lot of people are trying to go into architecture and a lot of other courses. And the competition, Clive, is now just as tough as ever. And in your experience and what you're hearing back from your students, are they getting the courses? Are they getting onto the universities that they wished to and hoped for?
I think I think I think some. Again, I think you've got to look at this in a balanced way. I think some are doing so well, others aren't doing so well, and I think what we have to concern ourselves with is what are those things, what are factors that are helping some students to do well and others not to do so well. So again, I think we have to look at this from a balanced point of view. I don't think all students who set out to reach their educational goals are doing so. And I think as an educator, because we are, keenly aware of some of the kind of obstacles that students face, I think the onus on us to see if we can help students, even those students, as I said, who are disadvantaged in some shape or form.
Yeah, absolutely. A point there. And what we are finding, Clive, and it's probably come no surprise to you, what we're seeing is in certain subjects, girls are outperforming by as much as 10%, such as 10%
This,
compared to
sure.
boys.
Yeah, this is typically what I've found, and I think there's many factors as to why this is the case. But in my experience, I think, and I hope I'm not genderizing it, I think that certainly the young women that I've worked with, they kind of have a different perception of education from the boys. I think these young women, they come in and they lack confidence. And as a result of lacking confidence, they tend to work particularly hard. The boys kind of come in with this play, nonchalant attitude, I know it all, I'm going to do well. At the end of the day, because of that attitude, they tend not to do so well. So I think the girls have done better because I think that the attitude is different. So I don't think them doing better is ultimately a reflection of ability, but I think it's a reflection of perceptions and attitudes towards educational progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tosi, for coming back to us. So we just, me and Clive are having a discussion about this year's A-level results and also the GCSE results. You know, what's your overall thoughts and feelings about another blockbuster year on people?
Uh, Firstly, I'd like to congratulate everyone for passing the A levels and GCSEs. They've done really well from last year, from the pandemic as well. And I can literally say that even though they've been working from home, they've been in their own bubble doing the exams. I spoke to one of my students. He said it himself that we had invigilators, we were in our own bubbles, in our classrooms doing exams, and what's called, it's been a hard time for them doing A levels as well, and GCSEs. And for me specifically, I can say this as well because I this was my final year in uni, so I know how hard, how stressful it was. Coursework changed into exams, exams changed into coursework. So yeah, it was really hard, and the guys out there who got higher than the grades that they even deserved. So yeah, hats off to them.
Yeah, no, well said, Tosif. So the question I asked Clive was, this year there was a combination of mock exams, teacher assessment, and coursework. And do you think that the teachers were able to, or had the training to be able to give that final assessment when they, obviously you have the conscious bias that they may not have received the training, and obviously they also want to give themselves a better reflection as well as their institution. How accurate do you think that is of a criticism as to why we have received such another record-breaking year of results?
I think it's because they what's called, like you said, they looked at mock, they looked at their coursework and exams. But another thing that what myself went through as well was in our uni terminology, you would say Viva assessments. Now, Viva assessments is something like is like a question and answering session. How well do you know your topics? So whatever you did in
Mm.
your coursework, how well are you able to answer them if you are asked that question? So from looking at that perspective as well, they will give you an average grade which the students have been given.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, absolutely. So for those of you that are listening, let us know how your son, daughter, nephew, how they performed in in these A levels and GCSEs, or if you are a young person, let us know how the last 18 months was for you and how did you do today or on Tuesday as well. Give us a bit of an insight as well. So we're moving on now to just to sort of talk about the impact of COVID on young person's education. We know that especially people from a lower socioeconomic background, on of a BAME background, you know, a lot of individuals may not have access to stable Wi-Fi or to a separate studio or a study area. They may not have the support from family to be able to handle some of the more complex questions as well as the fact that, you know, not everyone has access to an iPad or a computer, and so they are automatically disadvantaged. And you know, I know, Clive, you are a private tutor as well. You know, some of the more middle class and upper class are able to afford extra private tuition.
Mm. Well, I
How
think
much
it.
of an impact?
Sorry, could you just say that point again?
Yeah, so you know, a combination of the fact that you are the private tutor and the fact that not everyone is able to afford private tuition as well. How much of an impact does that have on being able to get the top grades and not being able to top of the
Oh,
grade, get
it's.
the top grade? So it's
I
about
mean,
having that early start, isn't it?
sure, sure. I mean, that's so right, and it's a point that I think it's worth bringing out. I think to some extent, you know, be able to have private tuition is a privilege, and obviously not everybody can share in that privilege. But I think it's the fact that some people can't, I think potentially has affected badly, because I think, you know, the private tuition kind of offers the support to help students to say, you know, on the top of the surface, that's to say, to be able to with educational difficulties. What interests me is what can be done, what provision is there for those students who don't have the means, the financial means to support, you know, to have private tuition. So this is something that's, you know, interests me terribly, and I think it's something that needs to be looked into in some detail.
Yeah, well said, Clive. So, and yourself, Joseph, who you've already expressed that you was a student. How tough has it been for
Yeah.
you and for other young people of a younger age to get through the last 18 months?
It's been very difficult. I myself was in these 18 months studying from home. I haven't even, it was in my second year in March time when I was sent home to study. From there on, I never literally saw the face of uni. And so it has been quite difficult with all the essential equipment that I should have been given from the uni. But obviously, it was just those tough times. And that's where, like I said before, that where I meant to do my practical work, which turned into coursework, I wasn't able to do it. So that's when they changed my coursework into exam. So yeah, so it was been really hard for me in these last 18 months, and I have spoken to quite a few other people around as well. Even for them, it has been quite hard. Some of them didn't even get. They were giving out laptops, but weren't even given because
Yeah,
of the
not easy
circumstances.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. And I suppose back to the point about sometimes we, you know, through discussion and through our peers, we exchange ideas, we help each other and support each other through our studying days. We also are able to, you know, see our, you know, I for one, I like the live teaching, the face-to-face learning, and the fact that it's all virtual, and sometimes that can be quite, you know, after about half an hour, you tend to sort of switch off or your concentration levels fall off. It's very hard to sort of maintain through an hour or a 2 hour lecture. So it's not been easy. I fully understand that. So
Yeah.
if anything, I suppose what we're trying to say is those people that are getting these results, they should be applauded. They should be commended for having that perseverance, commitment, the sort of, you know, the staying power to be able to get these exam results. If anything, it shows how well they and their family and their teachers have really overcome not only their difficulty, the change, the environment, but also the pandemic as well. So, you know, if anything, employers, when they go to the employability, they should be certainly much more marketable than maybe other students as well. What do you think,
Yeah,
Clive?
you know, I think. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think at the end of the day, you know, these young people, they have grafted, and clearly we're living in turbulent times, and, you know, they've prevailed. That's to say they've gained their results, and I think they should be commended for that, not just by family members, but also through society, through jobs, through opportunities. But again, if I could just go back to those people who are dispossessed, those people who don't have these opportunities, my focus is really more them, because they really have the problem. I think as tutors, what we need to do is, I think we need to be very sensitive to the concerns of these people, and I think we have to um, drop our prices so that these people also have the opportunity to be able to use good tutors. Because you could make the case that tuition is kind of somehow bound up in this notion of elitism, and I don't really want to be associated with elitism in any shape or form.
Yeah, Clive, if I can come back in there, we know that the students going to private schools achieved a massive 77% of people achieved A's plus, whereas about 30% achieved it within the normal comprehensive. So what are your thoughts about potentially, scrapping private schools or grammar schools and having a level playing field, so we know that everyone has an equal footing and that the government is plowing equal resources into our comprehensives?
I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I don't say this disrespectfully, but I think it could be argued that's a little ideal. I think this country is classist. There's a class structure, and I don't think what you feel or what I feel is going to get rid of this class structure, because it has historical roots within this country. But what I think can be done, I think more resources, more time should be pumped into, if you like, regular schools, so that the students can have the kind of education to bring them up on the competing level or the same playing field as those students in grammar schools and also in private schools. So I think it boils down to teacher education, government commitment, and also parents and students kind of coming together and working together as a unit, as a community, to the results within local schools. And it's not impossible. It's absolutely not impossible. It can be done. I've seen examples where of some good school practice where teachers have gone out their way to break down work in such a way that students really get it. Um, I, as you know, Mr. Ali, and what we try to do is we try to use the kind of tools, acronymic tools, mnemonic tools that help our students to understand material easily and effectively. And what we're finding time and time again is that we're getting the results.
No, that's clearly evident, and I can personally vouch for your dedication and the achievement of your students, Clive. One of the questions we asked earlier when your camera frozen, Joseph, was, in your opinion, how do you think people from a BAME background are disadvantaged compared to the indigenous white population?
Oh, that's a powerful question. And when we say disadvantage, I think we need to pluralize that. I think we need to say disadvantages. I think one of the crucial disadvantages that people suffer from, disadvantaged backgrounds, is got to do with language. So the kind of language code, the kind of language that's used within schools, in my view, really is better suited for those students from a middle class background. Obviously, if you don't come from a middle class background, you're going to struggle with some of the vocabulary that's used. And you've got to remember that the people that put curriculums together, many of them come from middle class backgrounds. So I think that's a barrier. So I think there's a language barrier, or there's a language disadvantage. I also think there's another main advantage. I think as a West Indian person, I come from a very expressive culture. And I know some of my Asian students and some of my West Indian students they're very expressive and they're very lively. And I find it great because I like bubbly personalities. But I think sometimes within a school system, that expressive behavior is kind of demonized and seen as a problem. So I think culture, instead of being appreciated, I think it's kind of demonized. And I think that's because local schools, or more specifically, my white English counterparts, I think they lack cultural literacy, or they could do with some more cultural literacy about other cultures.
Great point
I
about,
like that point. I actually like that point about the culture, because when a child is put in a school, obviously at that point in time is a parent's choice. Either back to what you said, going to people putting them in private or grammar or boarding. It's mostly the environment, how you settle in as well.
Absolutely.
That's one big thing, because to settle in, to be in a good environment, the teaching, the staff, the teachers, the students, they all need to make you look comfortable. And that was one thing that I did in uni as well, which was mentoring. And I've seen a lot of students, they were uh, trying to get out of and embracing the culture, because in uni there's many different people from different cultures, from different traditions, different languages, different countries come to one place. So, and there are a lot that what's it called suffer in silence as well, which needs to be avoided. I mean, that one thing is because of the environment that people are put in.
Yeah, well, so we've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to ask a question which I'm sure has been bandied around quite a lot over the last 18 months, which is all about mental health, stress. How do you think young people have suffered, whether silently or whether they have mentioned it, or whether it's through behavior? How stressful or how much of an impact has it had on their mental health? Tosif, if I can ask you to go first, please.
From mental health being really stressful, because it's happened to me myself, being awake till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then waking up again around 8 o'clock for another lecture or a practical session. So yeah, and then obviously preparing in the night, waking in the morning and presenting. So that's a one tough thing to do, and that does occur to your mental health issues. It occurs to your breakdown as well, mental breakdown. Is that for doing that? I've seen a lot of my uni mates, a lot of A-level students, GCSE students going through that same phase as well.
Yeah, not easy. Clive, with yourself?
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with the gentleman. I mean, this is a living reality. This is an existential bleakness. But what concerns me really is, yes, it's happening. Yes, young people have to face this, but what can be done? And what we do is we encourage people to talk. It's simple, but it works. My students will come to me and they'll say to me, sir, this is going on. What can I do? And we'll say, well, why don't you try to go to your bed earlier instead of stressing? Why don't you talk about how you feel? Why don't you share it with friends and family? So I think developing cultures of dialogue can certainly help these young people, because you know what they say, a problem shared is a problem halved, because when they speak to other young people,
Oh,
I think they can relate to one another in a way that perhaps an adult can't relate to a child in quite the same way.
Mentoring.
yeah, absolutely. So, no, very true, guys. We have come towards the end of the show. I am going to ask you just to give your final thoughts, slightly a different slants, really. One, Clive, for you, in terms of what your thoughts about the future of education moving forward, and Tosif, your hopes and aspirations in terms of your own career moving forward. So, Tosif, first, for you, please.
As Ali knows, I'm a published author, so I would like to start up a second book now. It's been 3 years since I wrote my first one, and I've sold over 500 books now. So
Oh, wow.
I'm ready to start off my second book now. For career mode, I've been awarded for the bachelor's of computer networks and security. So hopefully, inshallah, I want to go through that career, and I have been set up my own computer business on the side as well. So
Oh,
just
wow.
hope for the best now.
Yeah, our prayers are with you. And Clive, for you, in terms of the overall education, do you see improving? How do you see it changing over the next few years?
Well, education comes from a Greek word, edukos, and it means to bring out that is within. So I feel that what teachers, educators need to do for the future, and that's not the far future, but the immediate future, is to develop the kind of tools that students need to be able to bring out their full academic potential.
Great stuff. Really valuable insight by both people that are involved in education, albeit from a different slant. Really, thank you to both of you for allowing us delve deep into this particular topic. Thank you, Clive. Thank you, Tosif. On that note,
Thank you.
from all three of us, another congratulations to all the students, whatever your grades are. This is just the beginning of your life and your career. You take stock and see what your options are and make sure you go on to fulfill and achieve whatever ambition that you've got in store for yourself. Until next week, please look after yourselves and each other. God bless.